Terri Nakamura is a social media strategist, graphic designer, writer, and author of the upcoming book, Blogging on Instagram, which was successfully fundraised on Indiegogo and is being published by New Degree Press. Terri was named by Business Insider as one of the top women in technology on Twitter. She is also a Verizon brand partner and co-owner of the Alki Surf Shop in Seattle. Please welcome Terri Nakamura. All right, so welcome to the show, Terri Nakamura. I'm really happy to have you on.
Well, it's really an honor and kind of an embarrassing situation to be asked because I'm a nobody. So thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate having you here. And you're still a very interesting person. You're a social media strategist. You're a graphic designer. You were named by Business Insider as one of the top women in tech on Twitter. So I think there's a lot of interesting things we can talk about here. But yeah, I'm interested in knowing a bit about your story, how you got to where you are right now.
Well, when I graduated from college, there were no jobs. The Boeing bust had just happened, which was a really bad time in Seattle. And so it was hard to find a job. So I just created my own job by starting a business. So I had my graphic design practice for about 40 years in Seattle. I still do freelance work in consulting with people, but I actually had an office and people working for me and stuff like that. And it was really some of the most gratifying times of my life, being able to be in charge of your own destiny and creating your own work and doing work that you love. So I was a graphic designer primarily. And then I'm going to say sometime in the early 2000s when social media emerged, one of my clients told me about Twitter and said that I really needed to check it out. And I fell in love with it. That was like 2008. And so as an early adopter, it kind of gave me the opportunity to really meet a lot of people because the whole social media world was so much smaller then. So you could actually meet a lot of people pretty easily. Now it's vast and there's so many of them, so you're just like a grain of sand. But back in the day, I think there was this kind of common bonding amongst all of the people who said, hey, what is this? Let's check this out. So that was kind of the beginning for me on social media, was Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. Those were like the three things I did really early on. LinkedIn was an invitation-only app at the time, kind of like Clubhouse, where you had to be invited to join LinkedIn, and they were really strongly wording that you should only invite people to LinkedIn if you could vouch for them, and now it's like social media. It's like complete strangers are connecting there, and for many years, I just resisted that because I thought, well, I don't know, you could be an axe murderer for all I know, But then I started to realize that I'm probably friends with people like that on Twitter. So why am I treating this so differently, And anyway, and then Instagram, when that came along, I just totally fell in love with that. That was the best.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question at all?
What was the original question? It was how you got to where you are today. So yeah, I think that answers that.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, if it didn't, we can go back. But one of the reasons why Instagram was really special to me is because as a graphic designer and art director, I'd worked with so many photographers, professional photographers over the years, and you would be behind the photographer directing, what was happening in a shot, and if you wanted lighting to change or positions of things, and there's something glistening that shouldn't be, just fixing myriad things, and but never being the person to take pictures. So being behind the person shooting the pictures for so many decades, Instagram was like an opportunity for me to shoot my own pictures and put them out there. And that was kind of thrilling in a way, because I always loved photography. I was never particularly great at it, but it was just so awesome to just be able to take a picture and then see it there and go, wow, I took that picture. Isn't that amazing? You know? So that's kind of, for me, what really captured my attention. And then I didn't really use it properly for probably the first 8 years or something. I don't think I even put captions on a lot of my pictures, and I didn't go through and like a bunch of stuff, and I wasn't following a lot of people. I was just kind of there for my own edification, basically. And while I was asleep at the wheel, like, all these really kind of entrepreneurial people went, hey, I can build up my audience and I can have, 100,000 people and do all this other stuff. And I just didn't really understand that at all. I just thought, I really thought it was sharing and being able to meet people. And I didn't realize that there was this whole gamification that had been happening on the platform. So consequently, my following isn't that big, but I really feel connected to a lot of the people that I'm following. So I think that's unusual, because I think a lot of people are just really in it for the numbers and really not as much into it for the relationships. And I'm more about the relationships. So that kind of
Yeah.
brings us up to speed, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Instagram as a platform. I think it's very community driven, and we've definitely made friends with people on that platform. And same with you. I'm talking to you now because I found you out on Instagram.
Right, right. And that's the kind of magic that happens there that I think happens more in a more gratifying way than on other social channels. And so over time, you start having these conversations with people and you really do know them. It's like, so whatever happened last weekend when you were doing X? I mean, you kind of have this sense about people's lives, and that's pretty special, really. And the person, doesn't have to be in the US. It could be somebody in Singapore or someone in South Africa. I mean, and it seems like it just supersedes time zones and language and all kinds of stuff, and makes it pretty amazing.
And I guess that brings me to even your book now. I mean, you're writing a book called Blogging on Instagram. Can
Right.
you tell us a bit about what that is?
So blogging on Instagram began because I had I'd left a job, a corporate job, and I think it was around that time that I quit my job one day, and I said something about it on Instagram, and then people started responding to me like, oh my God, what happened? And that was like the first inkling that I had that anybody was even reading anything I was posting. Like, I had no idea, and it led to more extended captions. And I found that through the extended captions, there was a hugely increased amount of engagement that was happening. And it really surprised me. And I realized that after kind of doing this and doing some kind of experimenting over the course of maybe a couple of years, that it was an incredible opportunity for someone who wanted to be blogging, because I've had 3 blogs over the past 15 years, and would beg people to go look at these things and leave comments and like it and stuff. But your audience is 24/7 on Instagram, and it's like, no matter when you post, someone's going to see it immediately and respond to it, whether it's liking or commenting. And I felt like with a little bit of effort, it would be possible for anybody to take that platform and use it for a blogging platform. And so So it was sort of a disruptive idea to take a visual campaign, visual place, and then turned it into a writing place. And so that's kind of where it started. And I wanted to be able to tell other people how to do it. So that was the catalyst for writing the book.
I think Instagram's a really good platform for storytelling.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
you guys do that really well.
Yeah,
So
I think we could do it a little better though still. I think we could work on that. But yeah, definitely, I mean, and what I like about Instagram is, yeah, you can write a huge sentence, that lasts. I mean, it is a blog pretty much. It's kind of
mhm.
funny because Twitter, it only has like a very short little
Well,
sentences.
it was 140 characters, and then they boosted it to 280, and I felt like that was the death knell for that platform because people just used it to spam more people, like adding, 50 people's names to a tweet. It was just, it's like, that's not the kind of content you want to consume. But a lot of people do that. But yeah, it's really, it's gratifying to be able to have a place to write. And I did some testing because blogging, you expect it to function in a certain way. Like, we've all been trained to about SEO and how important it is to have certain kinds of things repeat, and then getting a mailing list and making sure you cultivate this audience. But you don't really need to do that on Instagram. And it's just and if you do have a blog, which I still do, kind of like on life support, but if you do still blog, Instagram is a great jumping off point, for directing people who really are interested enough in what you're saying or who you are that they'll investigate. And so I know for a fact that you can get that kind of completion of an objective on Instagram, that everybody is wishing for when they have a blog property. So it just seems like the best of all worlds, to be able to use it for that purpose.
And in your book, blogging on Instagram, so what does it exactly explore? Is it like a collection of your posts, or is it like a
No,
guide?
there are a few of my posts in there that I use as examples of different kinds of content and for accomplishing different things. But it's basically, breaking it down into um, how would you want to blog? Would it be like as a diary? Would it be like a journal? Would it be, you know, uh, op-ed? I mean, it could be poetry. It can be all kinds of things, and so it's really up to you to decide um, what is the kind of verbal expression that you'd like to share with people. So it kind of offers up frameworks for those different approaches. And some people, maybe they've been writing for a long time, and but they're not visual at all. Like, they have not a visual bone in their body. So then I kind of address how people get around that on Instagram. If you're not really great with your camera phone, excuse me, there are a lot of ways that you can still have a compelling image to go with whatever your post is. And it could be a quote, it could be, a stock photo. And so I include a lot of those kinds of resources for people who aren't visual, but I, at the same time, really encourage people to try their hand at just shooting pictures, because I'm sure you've seen this, Avery, where you'll be following someone who's kind of new and you look at their pictures and they're not that great. I mean, really, I can't count the times that I've seen this happen, but over time they get better and better and better. And then, like, they get to the point where they're actually good. And I think it's just like anything. We do something long enough, we kind of get a feel for it. We kind of observe what other people are doing and we go, oh, I could try that, or I could try a filter like that. And then it gradually leads to just better and better imagery. And so I think that and it's really fun, right? To just shoot your own pictures. So yeah, I think there's something for everybody in this book, no matter what their level artistic ability, or whether or not they've ever really written anything besides school papers, you know. So that's kind of where it is. The way that I began writing this book was a professor named Eric Koster contacted me on LinkedIn and noticed that I liked writing and asked me if I'd ever consider writing a book. And I said, actually, yes, because the year before I started collecting some of the essays that, you know, I'd written on Instagram, and I was compiling them into a collection with a framework about, you know, how to do this. But the book really evolved far away from my own writing and really more about how to for the average person. But when he contacted me and I signed up for this class, it was an amazing experience for me because it teaches authors how to be authors. It teaches you about what are the things that are important when you're writing a book for it to be interesting to somebody. How do you organize it? You know, I mean, the depth of what you learn through this exposure is, I can't even really get into all the details, but it's pretty amazing. So the thing is, it's free. It's free to take this course. But the bottom line is, after you're all done and you want to get it published, then there are costs associated with publishing a book. You need like an editorial team, you need production team, you need a marketing team, you need all these people to help you get your book completed and to market. And that's what New Degree Press, the publisher who partners with Creator Institute, provide. But they don't do that for free, right? So thus the Indiegogo campaign. And the Indiegogo campaign raises the money necessary to make all of those functions happen. And it's just been an incredible and valuable learning experience for me going through this process, because I studied digital marketing for 2 years and got a degree recently, like last year. But this kind of hands-on experience of really being in the trenches has been an amazing learning experience. And I think anybody out there who has a book in them would really benefit from investigating the path that I'm taking through this hybrid publisher. Anyway, in Indiegogo, of course, that was a whole another thing, right?
Yeah, that was the next thing I wanted to talk about, was the campaign. What was that like, trying to put a campaign together and even marketing for it?
You know, if left to your own device, like if you were to be an individual that has an idea, product, or whatever, and you wanted to put it on Indiegogo, I think you'd have to do a lot of studying and observation of what other people are doing in order to kind of get an inkling of an idea of what to do yourself. But through my publisher, they have such a defined framework about how to do every single thing on the campaign, every single thing, from leading up to that campaign, throughout the campaign, and afterwards. And I think a lot of people I know have been really blown away, like how did this all come together? And it really is due to the fact that the advice that I've received from the marketing team through New Degree Press has been amazing. And there are people that are coaching me too, like, you know, I have different kinds of editors and coaches available to me. So if you need therapy, you can contact somebody. And sometimes you do feel like you need, you know, just to like talk about stuff. And it's nice to know that there's someone, you know, there are people around to walk you through your anxieties and insecurities and all the things that, you know, that can go wrong and that have gone wrong. And yeah, I just feel like because they've helped hundreds of authors get their books published, they've really had a lot of experience to see what works and what doesn't work. And so I'm a beneficiary of all of their trial and error, basically.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, so like with the book and its campaign, well, first off, you raised $5,000 for it.
I actually raised more than six, and um, and it was really at the 11th hour. Some people came through and really pushed it over. Also, like not even contributing through Indiegogo, but outside of it by just mailing me physical checks, you know. And so I'm going to be able to make a contribution to a designee Rolling Dog Farm, which is an animal sanctuary on the East Coast that provides homes for um, terminally ill, tragically ill, injured, you know, unadoptable, now mostly dogs. And this person, the people that started it were actually former clients of mine at Boeing. I used to do a magazine for Boeing every month. And they gave up their corporate jobs to go do this. And I thought they were just amazing. I admire them so much for like just walking away from very high paying jobs to pursue this and what they do. So I wanted to be able to support them, and I'm happy that I will be able to share some of the proceeds from the funds that I've raised. But mainly I was trying to get over the $6,000 threshold because that was the point where it would allow me to publish a hardbound version of my book. And I'm really a book junkie. Like I love books, and I I feel like it's not real unless it's hardbound. so I just wanted to have that option. I just wanted to be able to get to that point. So that was what propelled me to go for the 6,000 plus that I needed
Yeah.
to raise to do that.
So you like to read a lot, I assume.
I used to read a lot more. I used to read, you know, a couple of books a month. But once I started back in college, that ended. And then, because, you know, you have to read all these books that you don't really want to read when you're in college, right?
Yeah.
So I was reading a lot, but nothing that I really enjoyed particularly. And then, except for one I snuck in there, which was The Goldfinch. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but
Yes, I've heard of it. Haven't read it.
it's kind of a door stopper of a book. It's like 900 pages, which sounds like forget it, you know, but it was so well written. And I studied art history when I was in college the first time. So it was interesting to me from that standpoint, but just a very well told story. And then it was made into a movie, and I thought the movie was pretty good. Like I thought they did a good job of sticking to what was in the book. How did they take a 900 page book and make it into a 2 hour movie? I mean, it's like mystifying to me, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I do read a lot, and I'm looking forward to the day where I can actually read just for pure enjoyment. Because I have a stack of books that's probably like 5 or 6 feet high right now of things that I have kind of sitting around waiting for me to read them. And just haven't really had the chance. So do you like to read?
Yes, I do like to read. And you know, I mean, I've gotten into a lot of like, I mean, I prefer older literature. You know,
Me too.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I prefer, you know, Jules Verne, Arthur Conan Doyle. You know, I like the
Sure.
classics.
Me too. I went through a Jane Austen phase and I read all her stuff, you know. I mean, yeah, some of those books from, you know, the true classic English literature, you just have to marvel at their use of the English language. Like no one can write like that anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, I agree on that. I mean, there's many new words I've discovered just from reading those books.
Absolutely. Do you read ebooks, or do you read traditional kind of printed books?
It just depends, you know. I mean, sometimes if there's a free public domain ebook, I will pick it up, you know, and read it. But you know, a lot of these books I found in like public little libraries. I don't know if you have those in your
Oh yeah, they're
neighborhood, but
everywhere.
okay, yeah, they're everywhere where I live too, and I always find the classics in there, and I love reading them. Yeah.
Avery, it's really funny that you mentioned that because I have this thing that I do where like I take the books that I know for sure are like they've been read and we're not going to keep them, and I will like in the evening take a walk and like I've got these books under my arm, right? And I'm kind of like putting them into these little libraries going, whew, just got rid of a few more books, and then you go back and they're gone. So I think that's just the ultimate in recycling,
Yeah, I love those things. I mean, I'm always taking books, putting books back.
exactly.
It's fantastic.
It is really cool. I love that. But on if you're reading on an ebook, one of the things I think is really handy, like on the Kindle at least, is to be able to go, who is this person? And then search for it and go, oh, okay, because like sometimes there are too many people in a book and you kind of lose track of who you're reading about, right? So I do like electronic books for that reason.
So you're a really busy person, I've noticed. You have a lot of different social medias. You work with a lot of companies. So I gotta ask, I mean, how do you manage all this? All the different things you do, Twitter, Instagram, your blogs.
It's really, I guess, I have a friend named Subrush who was an executive with the Westin for 3 decades, and she once said to me, because I've always marveled at all the things that she was able to do at her very high level job, like senior vice president. And I said, how do you have time to help me do this? And she goes, well, if you want to get something done, ask a busy person. And at the time, I thought that was kind of an odd, thing to say. But as I thought about it, it's really true. Like when you're busy and you are forced to organize a lot of things, you have this capacity, kind of like a Tetris game, of taking these modules that are kind of falling down into play and twisting them so they all fit together tightly. And it increases your capacity to actually do more. So I would say that that's kind of been a key little idea that I've kind of carried around for a long time. And that's partly how I'm able to do all the stuff that I do, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So where do you live exactly? I mean, you don't have to give the exact location, but
Well, my exact address is, um, you can probably find it on Google. Um, I live in Seattle, Washington. I'm about 10 minutes east from the heart of downtown, pretty much. I've lived in the same house since 1978.
Wow.
Can you believe that? Like, I mean, were you even born yet?
No.
You know what I mean? And we've had the same phone number. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I guess you could say we're fairly stable people. But yeah, I mean, Seattle has changed so much over the decades. Like now I will drive down a street and I won't even recognize where I am because there's so many new buildings. There are like these huge kind of caverns that, like on each side of the street are these enormous multi level houses, kind of, I guess, apartments or condos or whatever they are. But they're just packed together and unrecognizable. The city has gone bonkers. And so I live in a pretty traditional neighborhood and it hasn't changed that much, but all around the neighborhood are areas that just have changed vastly. And it's because of probably Amazon and Starbucks and some of the technology companies that are
Yeah.
based here, Microsoft, they've really they've been a magnet for a lot of people to move here.
Yeah.
So, and the weather isn't probably quite as bad as the reputation of rain all the time. And then once people move here, they go, huh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was, and so then it's almost like the secret gets out that it's actually an okay place to live.
Yeah.
temperatures are really moderate. Where are you?
I am in Pensacola, Florida.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. We couldn't be much further apart. Like I'm in the extreme Northwest and you're in the, Southeast.
Yeah.
So Pensacola. And it's pretty much always nice there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we do have the occasional hurricane, that's never fun. Otherwise, it's very nice. I like the place a lot. You got the beach, you still got plenty of forest. But it's still where we live, it's a bit more city-like.
Mhm.
But nature's never far away still, and that's always, a
So
plus.
here's a weird one for you. Are you a surfer?
No.
Okay.
I definitely wouldn't mind trying, but yeah, I can't say I'm, much of a surfer at all.
Okay. Well, I was just curious because my husband is really obsessed with surfing. He doesn't surf, but he likes the surf culture and he loves Hawaii and California and different
Actually,
places. So,
I'm wearing a Hawaii shirt.
oh,
That actually was a gift from my grandparents when they went to Hawaii.
that is so cool. Wow. I would love to go back there. It's been a really long time since we last visited. Um, have you been there?
No.
I think, well, you already live in kind of a paradise anyway, so I'm not really sure
I've pretty much lived in Florida my entire life. We've traveled, a bit, but once again, it's mainly in Florida that we've traveled.
yeah, but it's so beautiful and sunny and tropical. It's kind of like going to Hawaii. So why you would travel all that distance, you might be disappointed. I don't know. You already have a lot of really great stuff in Florida.
So, like, how has the pandemic affected your work in general?
In general, I've become a recluse and I don't see anybody. I'm afraid to go out now. But no, I've had my vaccinations and um, I actually have a lunch date coming up in a couple weeks and with some people I haven't seen for 18 months. So I'm looking forward to it. But basically I've become really comfortable just hunkered down in front of my computer like 8 or 10 hours a day and not seeing anybody. And even like doing this call, um, well, to be really honest, I really hate Zoom calls because you can't fake, like I could be sitting here if it was just a phone call, I could be eating a bowl of cereal or something
Yeah.
and you wouldn't know, right? But you have to kind of keep it together when you're on a Zoom call and that's taxing sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I adjusted to it pretty easily and it's going to be more interesting to see how we all merge back into normal, whatever that is.
I think the world's changing. It's changing very quickly. In both good and bad ways, but you can only just be optimistic.
This is true. And if we don't have hope, then we're really in bad shape, right? But I have noticed that there are more and more people getting vaccinated. Um, and I think they've just opened it up to like 12 years old and up, which is like really reaching down into the population. So, the more people that are vaccinated, I imagine will be good for just like suppressing the spread of COVID. This has been really, really crazy, crazy year and a half, Avery. I don't know what you think, but man, who would have ever predicted it would go on this long?
It's definitely been a crazy experience.
Has it affected you guys? Like you do a lot of your work outdoors,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, we spend a lot of time in nature and, we paint, we draw, we create art. It hasn't been too bad for us, at least the experience of everything.
Well, you have 4 people in your pod, right? Your siblings and your mom. So that's nice. I mean, that's a nice, I think, number of
Oh,
people.
and our dad. Yeah.
Oh, your dad. Okay, sorry, I didn't know about the dad. Okay, so 5 of you, right? So that's a nice number of people to have as a social circle. Mhm. For people who are living alone, I think it's a lot tougher.
People are definitely going to need a lot of help in the future, I think. There's been a lot of trauma, through all this. It may not be obvious trauma, but it is definitely, a mental there's going to be a mental trauma through all of this. And everyone's definitely going to need to help each other in the coming future.
And this is the first like really worldwide phenomenon that is affecting every single person on earth like at the same time. That's really unusual. Like when 9/11 happened, there were repercussions around the world, but it was more empathy than actual experience of the horror of it. And but this is really like science fiction movie, really
it's
crazy.
it's been crazy. Who inspires you in life? And I like to ask everyone I have on this show about that. I'm interested in knowing just who inspires you in life as a person, creatively. Do you consider yourself an artist? I mean, you're a graphic designer, and I consider that art. But do you consider yourself personally like an artist?
I don't consider myself an artist in the same way that you do. Although when I started, when I was really very young, my teachers recognized that I had the ability to draw and create art. And up until the time I was in high school, I really thought I would grow up to be a fine artist until I started working for a journalist when I was in high school part time. He told me, Terry, do not pursue this because you'll never make any money. And so he's the one who urged me to consider graphic design as as a profession. And I had never even heard of it. And so it was on my radar. And then once I started looking into it more, I realized that it was really gratifying to be able to work with illustrators and photographers and different creators in the creation of things that I would design. So um, we together would create something great, and that was really satisfying. But in terms of who inspires me, I mean, certainly that journalist way back in the day, he changed my life basically because I could have pursued fine art. I don't know that I would have ever been very good at it. Like I don't know that there was anything particularly unique about any of the things that I was doing, but um, but I was really good at solving problems. And graphic design is really all about having a problem that you're trying to visually solve and communicate with other people. And so it ended up being a really great thing. But the single person that I most admire is my sister. She's younger than I am, but she's such a rock. And I just feel like I'm so lucky to have a great sister. We
Yeah.
get along wonderfully and talk almost every day. And she really, I just feel lucky. A lot of people don't get along with their siblings. Like you guys all get along, which is really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. So
Yeah. Yeah.
when you do get along with them, it's such a blessing, really. And anyway, so yeah, I would say my sister definitely is up there.
Well, Terry, I guess that kind of brings things to a close. So your book, when is that coming out?
So the book will be published in late August, and the fulfillment will start in September. And in September, it'll be listed. It'll be for sale on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So I'm really excited about that. And it seems like such a long journey to get here, and I'm going to be really happy when I can kind of put it in my rearview mirror and move on to some other like crazy endeavor that causes all kinds of anxiety and stress. That's my favorite mode, you know? So,
Yeah, you have a million different social medias. So I don't think I really need to ask you, because I usually end up by saying, so where can people find you? But I think it's pretty easy to find you.
yeah, if anyone Googles Terri Nakamura, they'll probably find me somehow. It's been really a pleasure talking to you after
Yeah.
kind of crossing paths on Instagram for years. Really great to hear your voice and see your face and have a connection with you. So thank you so much
Yeah.
for reaching out.
Yes. Same for you. I really appreciate meeting you, and this has been a good time.
Great.
So thank you again, Terry Nakamura.
All right. Thanks, Avery. Take care. Bye.